So I reckon you either have or are considering a Herman Miller Embody. The chair itself isn't exactly a small purchase, and I think you've clicked on this video because you have a question on your mind. Do you need a headrest for the Embody? And if so, should you buy the Atlas headrest? If you want to hear from a guy that's spent literally thousands of hours in this Embody chair, both with and also without a headrest, and you want to get some real clarity on whether the investment would make sense for you, then you've come to the right place. So given that I work from home on pretty much a daily basis, I spend a fair chunk of my life sat in this Herman Miller Embody chair. I spent the first 18 months in the chair without a headrest, and I spent the last 9 months in the chair with this Atlas headrest installed. So I finally feel it's about time I shared my thoughts with you on whether I think it's worth paying the extra 150 British pounds or around 190 US dollars for the Atlas headrest, in addition to the, let's face it, pretty hefty base price tag for the Embody itself. It'll set you back around 2,000 US dollars if buying the chair new. Or are you better off just going with what Herman Miller originally intended when they shipped the chair without a headrest? Let's get into it, or onto it. Let's go. Ooh, just quickly, I wanted to mention that Atlas did send me this headrest as part of their collaborator program, but they had no input whatsoever on what I've actually said in the video. Everything here is my own honest, unfiltered opinion. Now let's get into some content. So before we talk about the details of the Atlas headrest for the Embody, I thought we'd do something a little bit different, and I thought I'd show you how I actually make use of the headrest in a real scenario. And to do that, I thought I'd capture some footage while playing one of my favourite games, Counter-Strike, on the PC. And yes, I'm always trying to crowbar that game into these videos. And right after that, we'll talk about a few details of the headrest, I'll share my conclusions, and also a couple of tips on how I stay comfy in general. Now, the first kind of win I want to talk about here is that the headrest just gets out of your way until the point when you need it. And I saw a few comments from people in my channel where people have asked, well, if you get a headrest, then maybe that sort of pushes your head forward or pushes your shoulders forward. And that's definitely not the case with the Atlas headrest. You can push it back and essentially it will stay locked, in that position. Now this position I'm sat in here, you can see I'm sat upright and I was leaning my head on the headrest just gently, and quite often I'll use that at work when I'm taking a very quick break between active tasks, or maybe I'm just popping my head back to just think while someone's asking me a question. So that first position is really handy. The next position I'm demonstrating here though is probably my favourite, where I've got the tilt limiter down one notch and I'm able to just recline back slightly in the chair and put my head on the headrest, and it's just really comfy. It takes a lot of tension out of my middle and upper back, and also of course my neck. So I really missed being able to do that when I didn't have a headrest. Now this last section of the video is sped up 15 times, as you can see, and that's across a 8-minute window, and that's just so you can see how I have a combination of being sat upright and reclining back in the chair, and I'll kind of repeat that throughout my working day, and in this case throughout a game of Counter-Strike. Okay, so you've seen the headrest in action and how it works in combination with the Embody in both an upright and also a reclined position. Did I mention how much I like that recline position, by the way? Let's get into a couple of details on the headrest itself. What I like is that it's super rugged. 9 months after buying the headrest and taking it out of the box, it looks pretty much exactly the same as the day I got it. The only clear exception being it's got a fair amount of dust on it, but that's not really Atlas's fault. I need to do a better job of vacuuming this office. It's super comfortable, has the ideal amount of sponginess, I would say. It has a certain amount of give, but not too much, and feels really comfy when you're resting on it. It's really easy to adjust, and like I mentioned earlier, when you do adjust the headrest, it seems to somehow stay in that exact same position. So if you put the headrest back, it will stay in that same position, and if you pull it forward, it will just be there ready for when you need it. So from an engineering standpoint, I think that must have been quite challenging to get that balance right, and it's really quite impressive from that perspective. I was kind of worried that it might, if I keep moving it back and forth, the mechanism might become a bit loose, but I don't think I've had to tighten it once after purchasing the headrest, so I think kudos for that one. And it looks good. It's a modern, streamlined shape, and I don't think it's too big or too small, and I think they've got that style just right. If I were to offer just one gripe on the headrest, it's that Atlas didn't offer me the particular fabric that I have on my 2018 Embody. I believe Herman Miller have actually discontinued the Balance fabric that I have on my Embody, so it kind of makes sense that Atlas don't offer that particular fabric, but still it is noticeable. The fabric does look quite different between the chair and the headrest, but both materials are black, it's not a big deal. So is an Embody headrest necessary? It would be a bold statement, wouldn't it? As you may have seen from the demo earlier in this video, I reckon you might find yourself using it, say, 20 or maybe even 30% of a working day. And that of course depends on what kind of combination of active tasks versus listening and learning mode you may be in. So if I'm in a meeting where I'm mainly listening, then I'm much more likely to recline back in the chair so I can take in the information. But when you do use the headrest, I think you'll agree that it does feel great. When combined with the Embody Recline feature, I do find that I get tons of upper back relief throughout my working day, and overall I get notably less fatigue while sitting. I've seen people in the comments of this very channel stating that if you have the right posture, you somehow don't need a headrest. I don't really buy that. I mean, if I'm feeling fatigued and the chair has a fantastic recline feature, then I want to use that feature, and the headrest dramatically improves my recline experience. So does it fix the major gripe that I had with the Embody? Absolutely it does. I am a very happy chappy. Now, if you've just bought an Embody or are considering buying one, I'd suggest maybe waiting a short while before buying a headrest to see if you find yourself yearning for some additional neck and upper back support. But if you do decide you need a headrest, then this Atlas version does seem like a very solid bet. Now, it's taken me a number of years to realise that being comfy in a chair isn't just about the chair itself or even the headrest. It's about the positions and postures we adopt while in the chair, and also what we do to stay active. Over the years, I've bought a number of tools to really help with my posture and activity, such as a motorised standing desk and a pretty nifty footrest. I've even bought a pull-up bar to really stretch out my back from time to time. I think these tools have helped an absolute ton in terms of relieving the back pain I previously had. If you're interested in hearing more from me about how I stay comfy and related technology, feel free to hit subscribe and maybe even leave a comment letting me know what's on your mind. I hope to see you around.